My name is Carl Johnson. I've been professionally landscaping now for about 14 years. And the name of the company is the Gardener Landscaping. It's LLC, so I am incorporated.
And how did you start working on the Burmese project?
Well, the Burmese project was quite by chance. So it happens my partner was taking a class in anthropology, and she was working with Dr. Beer. And they have been involved with Burmese refugees, and I'm not sure to what extent that she got involved with it, but it was part of her anthropology class. And really was trying to assimilate the Burmese to the American culture, and that is how anthropology got involved. And part of that involvement was the Burmese were involved in farming originally, and they were starting to farm, which was actually donated or was involved with the church, which is Pastor B and Pastor Joe, and they got involved in trying to help the Burmese to have a sustainable form of living, to be able to, feed themselves, etc., and get some income. And they had some issues where they needed to identify some plants. So the Burmese, based on their culture, their expertise, trying to assimilate what they grow in their country with what you can grow here in Florida. And then we went through a whole process of identifying plants. So I was helping the anthropology department identify plants because there was a language barrier. So we may get the Burmese name, but there was no English translation for the Burmese name.
So it started as a student project?
Started as a student project, exactly. Started as a student project.
What year was that?
That was this year, 2014, started in March. That's when I got involved with the Burmese. And since then, my involvement has only grown. Everything from consulting, to helping them get plants, to organizing garden beds, to where we're at now, which is obtaining what is called a greenhouse. Well, when I got to the farm, they were doing a lot of Asian vegetables, like bok choy. They also had moringa growing. One of the things about the Burmese farming is they just started farming. So they want to plant mango trees, which is a very tropical fruit, but mango doesn't do well in Tampa this far north. In St. Pete, all over the place you can find mango trees, but in Tampa you're going to have to learn where to plant them. So basically the Burmese, they plant whatever they want to grow, and they plant them anywhere. So they may try to plant everything. They may try to grow a mango tree and citrus trees among the regular vegetable garden bed. And that's obviously in the long term going to become a conflict because these trees get very large, provide a lot of shade, and vegetable plants need at least a minimum of 8 hours of full sun. So that's where I got involved. Apart from naming the plants that they had, was trying to tell them, well, you can't plant the citrus among your vegetable garden. You can't try to plant ornamentals. They want to plant palms as well. So then I was trying to bring these conflicting forces together because you also have the church needs as well, trying to get some structure and have it looking ornamental and really presentable, and then the Burmese just planting their vegetables as well. So it was trying to get a long-term plan in place. So what I did was we developed a long-term plan. I told them you need to work on a long-term plan so you're not starting A and then realize that you're going to have to scrap A and do B. So they have one area set out as really a large community area from which they're trying to get income from. Then they have plots for different Burmese families where they can grow what they want to grow, to feed themselves, and they may also use it to sell as well. Apart from just the crop portion also, they're also looking at chickens, they have rabbits, and they had goats. And one of the things, and the goats were there previously, I think, from the church side. So the things, the Burmese, they're very involved with chickens, so it was trying to figure out what they're all doing, when to have chickens, where to have chickens, where you're going to put them. And of course, they also look at sustainability as well. And I'm kind of going to backtrack a little because originally the farm was a fish farm. So there are actually 3 large ponds at the center. So I understand that the largest pond, I have not seen this yet. I know it has fish in it, but they said they have koi in it. Now koi has a high market value. They're wanted, and the Burmese Laku, who is really in charge, was trying to be the leader for the Burmese section. He's very much into farming. He was growing catfish in Burma, so that was one of the things we were talking about, doing catfish as well. So there's still a lot of stuff to do over there. Right now the 2 ponds, well, there's 3 ponds, they're overgrown with reeds. But there's a lot that can happen down there. I mean, there's a Thai temple, which is not far from where the Burmese center is. They're really a good model for what the Burmese farm can be,
And the Thai temple doesn't actually have a farm.
I want to say not on site. No, not on site. They have a huge temple there. They have kitchens there, and every Sunday they have. You can go over there and get food, and it's a huge crowd, so you can get a good cross section of Thai cooking. Everything from desserts to soups to everything in between. They have their barbecues, they have stuff on skewers, they have all the sticky rice. I mean, and there are I've seen them growing, you know what I mean, from what they started when I went there years ago to where they are now. You know what I mean? The wall is, they're definitely doing good business, and they're only doing it 1 day a week. Plus they have a huge warehouse where they may have banquets and they rent out the space. But they may have a farm somewhere else. I do not know where they're getting the produce from. And so they're selling ornamental plants and food as well.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the greenhouse that the Burmese want, do you know where that idea came from?
That's a very good question. I think that may have come from Pastor Joe thinking about starting a greenhouse. I know that was brought up, and they just didn't know where to get a greenhouse from. So my only involvement there was trying to get them a greenhouse. And we went out, I had to do a little research because I've never bought a greenhouse myself. And so part of my list, I have local connections. So I called and they said a lot of people are buying their greenhouses from, it's called Growers Supply. And the guys there are very knowledgeable, very helpful. And so prior to that, I had gone over the measurements of the size greenhouse we should get. And sure enough, they already had greenhouses within those dimensions we were looking for. Right now, some of the Burmese are working. And the distance to the farm is proven to be an issue. Pastor Joe, I know through the church, he has a van and he can take them back and forth, which he's been doing. Some of them have cars. They're basically coming on a Saturday. Some of the more dedicated Burmese come after work. So it's trying to show that there is income that can be gained, and it's trying to get that across to them that there's all these opportunities that can be, can be had, can be achieved. You know what I mean? And that again comes down, into problems again, language barriers, and having somebody who can interpret, being available all the time. The main person who we were trying to liaison with is now actually working more with the Burmese cultural center, so he's not necessarily always on site. Recently talking to Pastor Joe, there's been a gentleman there, some younger generation people who are very motivated, very excited. They actually even want to start goat farm because he can see a lot of potential from the goats, you know what I mean? But working with Dr. Beer, a lot of the local restaurants, a lot of what I call, not the chain restaurants, are looking at the concept of farm to table. And so they've already contacted this restaurant, and it's a high-end restaurant, very popular restaurant in Tampa, which are willing to buy a lot of the foods the Burmese can produce. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big plus. And so once you can tell this to the Burmese and get them more involved, I think that's our biggest challenge. I think that has been a challenge from the get-go. You know what I mean? Oh no, this has been very much a learning experience as well for me. I'll give you an example. I was in Barbados, just over the winter holidays. And all everybody was talking about was moringa. Moringa. Well, I started drinking moringa tea. I have all the benefits. I started working with the Burmese in March, and sure enough, they're growing moringa right on the farm. One of this sustainability, in terms of sustainability and trying to minimize, well, they've been an organic farm. They're actually taking lemongrass, and I use that as a pesticide. What they do is they soak it in water, and they just let it sit. And I can't say if it sits for weeks or months, but they let it sit, basically let it ferment, let it just rot, and then they take that and they use that to spray the beds. So yes, it has been a learning experience, and it's always good when you interact with different people from different cultures and trying to bridge that cultural gap. You know what I mean? So we're talking about trying to understand what they want, and that's just part of what anthropology is trying to do. How can we best meet the needs of the Burmese through their eyes? You know what I mean? So yes, it has been a trend. And plus, I've been in lots of people like yourself. It's amazing I had to go to Barbados to meet you. You know what I mean? So it has been a tremendous learning experience. And getting involved, I think, is good because I learn something new every day. You know, if I knew it all, I don't know where it would be. But I'm learning from you as well. So it has been fun. And I'm looking forward to the continued interaction between yourself, the students, the Burmese. And it's good to see, you know, like a pup, grow from a pup into adult, you know. So it's good to see this growth, the progress that's taking place. As I said, I went to the Thai temple, I've seen the progress they have made, and I've not been involved with the Thai temple other than to go and eat their food and spend my money. So the Burmese now, the sense of ownership, the sense of participation, the sense of community, you know what I mean? And this is community from the Burmese, Pastor Jerome, Pastor B. So we have the African side, the Ethiopian, you know, then from the students, and the students from varying backgrounds as well.
And Pastor Joe is Dominican.
And Pastor Joe is Dominican, yes. With a Barbadian wife, I may add.
So your work with them is all volunteer, or they pay you?
Some is volunteer, and some is they pay me if I buy plants and I start to do installations for them. That originally went on there, we had to rototill the entire field. Like I said, the Burmese Center has a lot of, now they're doing some beekeeping on the backside of the ponds as well. Before they was overgrown, so we had to bush hog around the entire pond area, which is a big plus because you can walk around the entire pond. There's a lot of potential there, both from aesthetics and ornamental to commercial, meaning this bee production, well, this bee harvesting going on there right now. You know, they have some beekeeping going on. And so most of it is volunteer with some paid services. My name is Carl Johnson. I'm the owner of a company called The Gardener Landscaping. My website is www.thegardenerlandscaping.net or .com.